Hi everyone, welcome to Romance Stories. Before watching the video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. My son begged for $5 to buy a popsicle, only to be harshly scolded by his ice queen mother for not knowing the value of money. Having just transmigrated into the body of this mopey, useless loser, I immediately snapped. In my past life, my word was law. I was second to none. There was no way I'd let my son suffer this kind of humiliation. I whipped out $1,000 on the spot, taught him how to hide a secret stash, and declared that women are nothing but paper tigers. The result? A second later, both my son and I were kicked out of the house. Standing in the freezing early winter wind, both of us wearing cartoon slippers, he looked up at me and asked, "Is this what you meant by being a tough guy, Dad?" Haha, I'm dying of laughter. 6-year-old Leo had been pleading with Yvonne for just $5 for a treat. Instead, he got a lecture on frugality that left him trembling. I had just entered the body of this pathetic live-in son-in-law, and looking at the endure and stay silent script in my head, I was instantly annoyed. In my previous life, I was a man of my word. I couldn't stand seeing my son treated like this. I stepped forward, pulled Leo behind my back, patted his small shoulder, and said in a deep voice, "Son, remember this. A man must be tough. If your knees are soft now, your wife will ride over your head for the rest of your life." Leo blinked his big, round eyes, looking confused. Then, how do I become tough? I pulled $1,000 from my wallet, stuffed it into his hand, and lowered my voice. First, practice hiding a secret stash. This is called a strategic reserve fund. It'll save you during major crises. Yvonne's face instantly turned as black as soot. She hissed through gritted teeth, "Arthur, is this how you teach our son?" I turned and winked at Leo, shouting boldly, "Don't be afraid of her. Women are just paper tigers. If you don't fight back now, you'll end up like your old man." Ow, ow. Easy on the ears. 10 minutes later, Leo and I were standing lonely outside the villa gates, both wearing matching cartoon slippers. The biting winter wind chilled us to the bone. Leo sniffled, his tiny hand clutching the crumpled $1,000 bill, his face full of bewilderment. "Dad, is this the toughness you were talking about?" I smoothed back my messy hair, disheveled from the scuffle, lit a cigarette, and tried to look profound. "This is called a strategic retreat. Come on, Dad's going to show you what the dangerous world is really like." Yvonne was likely certain that I wouldn't last 10 minutes before crawling back, crying and begging at her feet. After all, the old Arthur would burst into tears if he was forced to stand in the corner for 5 minutes. This time, she calculated wrong. I looked down at my son, standing a head shorter than me in his cartoon slippers, and chuckled to myself. The joys of being a useless son-in-law are things that a cold, high-and mighty CO like her could never imagine. "Dad, where are we going?" Leo looked up, his eyes full of uncertainty. I blew out a ring of smoke, strikes a carefree pose. "The world is vast, son. Anywhere can be home." He curled his lip. "Speak human, please. I haven't thought of a place yet." I stubbed out the cigarette and waved my hand dismissively. "Just follow your old man. I guarantee you'll have meat to eat." The words had barely left my mouth when Leo suddenly remembered something. He fumbled through his pockets, and his small face instantly crumpled. "Dad, where's my $1,000? My heart skipped a beat. I had completely blanked on the image of Yvonne's icy hand snatching the cash back from his pocket right before she kicked us out. At the time, she even said, "I'm holding on to this. I can't have you two starving to death in the streets and embarrassing me." Without changing my expression, I rubbed Leo's head. Money is just a worldly possession. A real man values his integrity above all else. Leo sniffled and muttered, "I think you're just a poser. You deserve to be struck by lightning, and now the lightning is following me, making me eat the north wind." This kid was small, but he was a sharp one. He knew exactly what was going on. There we were, two of us in thin pajamas and cartoon slippers, shivering in the cold like two pathetic quails. As we passed a barbecue stall, the scent of grilled meat wafted through the air and hit us square in the nose. Both our stomachs growled in unison. Leo swallowed hard, his eyes glued to the sizzling lamb skewers dripping with fat. He yanked on my sleeve. "Dad, watch me." With that, he trotted over on his short legs to the stall owner, putting on his most adorable, pitiful face. Mister, my dad and I got lost. We're so cold and hungry. Could you spare just one skewer? My dad will bring the money to pay you back later. I promise. The stall owner, a beefy guy with a hardened face, didn't even bother to look up. Beat it, you little brat. I see scammers like you every day. No money, no food. Don't block my business. Leo's cute attack plan was a total failure. He trudged back, his eyes rimmed with red. I knelt down and wiped the teardrop from his nose. Son, acting cute is the lowest level of manipulation. Then what do we do? I'm so hungry. Don't worry. Watch your father teach you the highest level of grifting. I pulled him toward the nearby park. On a long bench sat a beautiful girl with exquisite makeup and trendy clothes. She was cooing into a phone mounted on a tripod. Ah, thank you to my top 1 fan for the private jet. Sending hearts to everyone. Clearly, she was an influencer with a decent following. My eyes lit up. Opportunity. I gave Leo a shove. Go hug her leg and call her mom. Leo's face turned pale. He looked at me in shock. Dad, where is your dignity? I tilted my head. Can dignity buy dinner? Our meal tonight depends entirely on you. Leo hesitated for 3 seconds, felt his growling stomach, gritted his teeth, and closed his eyes. He launched himself forward like a cannonball. Mommy, I finally found you. I missed you so much. He clung to her leg, wailing piteously. The girl's singing cut off abruptly, and a live stream chat exploded instantly. Passers-by in the park began to circle back, pointing and whispering. The beautiful influencer, whose screen name was Candy, stood frozen. She looked down at the sun, who had suddenly sprouted from her thigh, her face a giant question mark. Just as she was about to call security, I stepped forward. My footsteps were heavy and solemn. My eyes were pools of weary, soulful agony. Candy, I know you hate me, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But you can't just disown our son. The child is innocent. Candy's expression was currently more colorful than a makeup palette. The comments in the live room were going feral. OMG, drama of the year. Viral influencer caught abandoning her husband and kid. Asterisk, that dad is actually hot, though. Even if he's a deadbeat, I'd forgive that face. Asterisk, the kid is a freaking method actor. Look at those tears. Kenny's brain was spinning at high speed. Seeing the viewership number skyrocket, she pivoted instantly. She looked at the camera with fake tears of her own. Sir, please don't talk nonsense. I don't even know who you two are. I pulled Leo back, pointing at the wet streaks, which were actually snot, on his face. Look, your son missed you so much he's inconsolable. You heartless woman. Leo stayed perfectly in character, wailing even louder. Mommy, don't leave me. I promise I won't wet the bed anymore. I almost lost it and kicked the little brat right there. Seriously, kid? Why are you adding unscripted bedwetting to the plot? Candy was nearly pushed out of character by his improvisation. She suppressed a laugh, seeing that the viewer count had surpassed 1 million and GIFs were flooding the screen like a digital blizzard. She quickly addressed the camera. Darlings, this might be a misunderstanding. I need to end the stream to handle this family matter privately. She cut the feed, let out a massive sigh of relief, and pinched Leo's cheek. You little rascal, your acting is top tier. Oscar owes you a trophy. Then she turned to me, her eyes sharp and curious. All right, spill it. What do you two actually want? I clear my throat, reverting to my witty self. Beautiful, I won't lie to you. We're just starving and looking for free meal. Kenny didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You caused this much chaos just for a meal? Mainly, the kid just wanted to see a pretty girl, I said, pointing at Leo. Leo puffed out his tiny chest. Dad says admiring beautiful women is good for physical and mental health. Candy was so charmed by our double act that she decided right then and there to treat us to a feast. At the restaurant, Leo converted his sorrow into appetite, taking down an entire roasted chicken by himself. I sipped wine and bragged to Candy. In reality, my status at home is incredibly high. My wife listens to my every word. If I say one, she doesn't dare say two. Leo, gnawing on a drumstick, chimed in with a muffled voice. Don't believe him. When Dad has to kneel on durians at home, he specifically picks the soft ones so they don't hurt as much. Candy laughed so hard her whole body shook. Tens of kilometers away, in the vast, empty villa, Yvonne sat with a face like thunder, staring at her phone. Her best friend Vera, had sent a link with a single message. "Quick, look! Your husband and son are trending on the hot search." Opening the link, she found a recorded live stream of my performance. She watched as I made my soulful accusations and heard Leo's wailing plea. "Mommy, don't leave me." Her blood pressure spiked instantly. But the final straw was the clip of me bragging to Candy. "That tiger's back home? I only tolerate her out of the kindness of my heart. Otherwise, she'd have been handled long ago." Crack! The wine glass in Yvonne's hand shattered, shards of glass digging into her palm, but she felt nothing through her rage. Vera's call came through immediately. "Yvonne, don't be mad. Arthur is just a big talker. He's a dead man walking, isn't he?" Yvonne hung up, two pillars of fire burning in her eyes. Back at the dinner table, I was blissfully unaware. Half drunk and feeling invincible, I was busy passing down the secret arts of seduction to Leo. "Son, the core of chasing girls boils down to two things. First, thick skin. Second, persistent thick skin." Leo nodded sagely, pointed at Candy, and asked, "Dad, can I chase her?" Before I could answer, my phone vibrated frantically. The screen displayed the Supreme Emperor, the nickname I'd given Yvonne. Game over. I'm exposed. Leo saw the caller ID, and the drumstick in his hand fell to the plate. "Dad, it's the Supreme Emperor. Are you going to pick up?" His small face was filled with terror, as if the person on the other end was a prehistoric beast. I took a deep breath, feigning calm, and smiled at Candy. Family matter, just a family matter. To save face and maintain my tough guy image in front of my son, I hit the speakerphone. The moment I answered, Yvonne's voice, cold enough to drop icicles, pierced through. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Only two words came out, a command that brooked no argument. "Get back. Now." If I wimped out now, all my previous bragging would become a joke. I cleared my throat and used a tone of unprecedented steel to reply. "I'm sorry. The user you have called is currently busy with manual labor and is unable to take your call at this time. Please try again later." Without waiting for a reaction, I clicked the end call button with a flourish and powered off the phone entirely. Total silence. The world stood still. Candy looked at me with wide eyes and an open mouth as if she were witnessing a national hero in action. Leo stared for half a second before slowly raising a thumb. "Dad, you're my guy," Leo exclaimed in pure admiration. But then his face slumped again. "But where are we sleeping tonight?" Candy reacted quickly, suggesting with a smile, "Why don't you stay at my studio for the night? I have a spare room. With a duo like you, a handsome dad and a cute kid, you'd definitely go viral if you signed as streamers." I shook my head. "Forget the contract, but I can contribute technical capital." "What kind of technique?" "I'll be responsible for the scripts and plot twists. You handle the operations, and we split the profits 50-50ths. I didn't want to be tied down by a contract. Being a free-spirited prankster was much more fun. Kenny thought for a moment and agreed. However, I declined her offer to stay at her place. A man staying at a single woman's house with his son wouldn't look good. That was my final line of decency. That night, I took Leo to a private room at an internet cafe. For the first time since transmigrating, I felt the joy of being an independent man. I taught Leo how to play games, from the basics to using trash talk to make opponents rage quit. "Son, remember, you can lose on mechanics, but you must never lose on momentum. Type fast and use dominant language." Leo was a natural. The student was surpassing the master. Half an hour later, our top laner was flamed so hard by him that they disconnected. "You trash. My grandma plays better than you, using only her feet." I looked at his small, gloating face and felt immense satisfaction. The kid really had my old flair. Meanwhile, back at the empty villa, Yvonne sat alone on the sofa. The wall clock struck 11 p.m. Normally at this hour, her useless husband would have shamelessly brought her a foot bath, massaging her feet while telling lame jokes. Tonight, the room was terrifyingly silent. For the first time, she felt the house was too big and the cold was bone deep. This unfamiliar feeling made her restless and irritable. She grabbed her phone and called Logan, the head of security. "Track Arthur's location and bring him back to me." In the smoky internet cafe, amidst the clatter of keyboards, Leo and I were immersed in the joy of a mid-lane brawl, completely unaware of the approaching danger. Several men in black suits and sunglasses suddenly appeared at the door of our private room. The leader was Logan, Yvonne's right-hand man. "Mr. Arthur, the madam requests that you and the young master return home," Logan said politely, though his expression was stern. I didn't even look up, my eyes still glued to the monitor. "Wait a sec, let me finish this team fight first." Logan's jaw twitched. He clearly hadn't expected this reaction. He signaled the men behind him, and two of them stepped forward, ready to take action. Before they could even get close, Leo suddenly leaped off his chair and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Help! Kidnapping! Thugs are bullying a child!" This shriek instantly caught the attention of the entire internet cafe. Dozens of red-eyed gamers who had been pulling all-nighters surrounded Logan and his crew. "What do you think you're doing? Coming into a net cafe to bully people? Look at you big guys laying hands on a kid. Have you no shame? Call the police. We're calling the cops." The power of the masses was truly magnificent. Logan and his team were completely powerless against the mob of internet-addicted teens and were left speechless. I seized the opportunity to stand up and patted Logan on the shoulder. "Brother, don't be rash. Working as security for the Liu family. How much do you even make a month? Working in the rain and sun with no future. Look at me. I'm out here starting my own business, making a killing in just one night. Come work for me, and I'll lead you guys to fortune." Logan froze, a flicker of hesitation crossing his eyes. Just as the tension reached its peak, a snide, mocking voice cut through the air. "Oh, isn't this the useless son-in-law of the Liu family? How did you end up wandering into a dump like this? Get kicked out of the house." I turned around. It was Justin, Yvonne's #1 lapdog, a rich brat who was always trying to prove I was trash. Seeing him here was just my luck. Justin walked up to me, pulled a thick stack of cash from his wallet, and threw it on the ground. "Arthur, aren't you hungry? Call me Grandpa once, and this money is yours." It was a blatant humiliation. The net cafe went dead silent. Everyone was watching me. Before I could even react, thud! Leo was on the ground like a lightning bolt, kowtowing repeatedly toward Justin. "Grandpa, Grandpa, Grandpa." I said it 3 times. "Can I have the money now?" His voice echoed. His movements were precise, and his eyes were filled with a desperate craving for cash. The entire place went silent. Everyone was shocked by this sudden turn of events. Justin's face shifted from smugness to a sickly purple instantly. He had wanted to humiliate me, but he ended up being stunned into silence by my own son. I covered my face, feeling like every ounce of dignity I'd left in this life had vanished tonight. I swear I didn't teach him this move. It was pure, raw talent. Justin was caught between a rock and a hard place. Under the gaze of the crowd, he could only grit his teeth and tell his lackeys to pick up the money and stuff it into Leo's hands. Leo took the cash, his small hands counting the bills with lightning speed, drool nearly escaping his mouth. I snatched the money away. "Well done, son. Remember, this is called respecting your elders and loving the young. We must show respect to our seniors." Justin was shaking with rage, pointing a finger at my nose. "Arthur, you piece of trash. You're actually letting your son make a fool of himself." He raised a fist to hit me, but Logan blocked him. "Young Master Justin, bullying a child is a bit too pathetic, don't you think?" Logan looked at Justin coldly, his eyes full of contempt. Justin was completely dumbfounded. Yvonne's own security was siding with me. Taking advantage of the chaos, I led Leo out of the net cafe. Using the money Justin so generously provided, I booked a penthouse suite in the best luxury hotel downtown. After a hot shower and slipping into a plush bathrobe, I finally felt like a human being again. Leo was rolling around on the king-size bed, clutching the stack of cash and grinning like a little money grubber. "Dad, we're filthy rich. This is just the beginning, kid." I lit a cigarette, a daring plan forming in my mind. I grabbed my phone and logged into the livestream account Candy had set up for me. I changed the title to Survival Diary of a Rich Son-in-Law, how to make an Ice Queen wife kneel and sing Conquest. Then I pulled Leo over, pointed the camera at us, and grinned. "Darlings, for everyone who called me a liar yesterday, watch closely. Today, I'm giving a live demonstration." As soon as the stream went live, Candy boosted the traffic from her end. Viewers flooded in instantly, hungry for more drama. Is this streamer not afraid of being beaten to death by his wife? Asterisk, legendary move 666. Waiting for the CO madam to descend. I clear my throat and began my lecture. To control a woman, the core secret is just 2 words. Ignore her. The angrier she gets, the calmer you must be. For example, yesterday she told me to get out, so I got out. Right now, she's definitely losing her mind searching for me. Leo, acting as my hype man while counting bills, chimed in, "That's not right." Dad says if he says 1, Mom doesn't dare say 2. She just goes straight to hitting him. LOL, is this kid really his own son? Professional sabotage for 100 years. I feel like this streamer is literally dancing on the edge of a grave. Just as the atmosphere in the stream reached a fever pitch, ding-dong, the doorbell rang. Thinking it was room service with our dinner, I shuffled over in my slippers to open the door. The roasted goose is the words died in my throat. Standing at the door wasn't a waiter. It was Yvonne. She was wearing a black trench coat, her long hair slightly damp, her face completely void of emotion. She radiated a freezing aura that could turn a man to ice. Behind her stood Justin, wearing a smug grin, waiting for the show to begin. Shit, this time I've pushed it way too far. The live stream camera, unfortunately, was pointed directly at the door. A second later, the chat went nuclear. OMG, it's the CEO. Asterisk, she's gorgeous. The streamer is a god. Speak of the devil, and she appears. That aura. I can feel the killing intent through the screen. Rooting for the streamer to survive. My brain stalled for a nanosecond, but my fierce survival instinct kicked in immediately. I spun around and flashed a brilliant smile at the camera. Darlings, do you see this? This is the special guest I invited to act alongside me. She's my top 1 big sister supporter who's been showering me with gifts. Everyone, give her a warm welcome. I pointed straight at Yvonne. Yvonne let out a cold laugh and stepped into the room, 1 stride at a time. Arthur, you've certainly become quite capable, haven't you? Her voice wasn't loud, but the sheer pressure behind it was overwhelming. My legs were shaking like jelly, but this was the absolute moment where I couldn't lose my nerve. I winked frantically at Leo. Getting the message, Leo ditched the cash in his hands and lunged forward like a hungry tiger, locking onto Yvonne's leg. Mom, you finally came to get us. Dad said if he didn't show up, he was going to go scrub toilets for that rich lady at Neighbor King's house. Yvonne's rising fury was instantly derailed by that mental image. Seizing the opening, I rushed forward, grabbed her from behind in a hug, and shouted at the camera, "Honey, save some face for your husband in front of the public. I'll kneel on the keyboard all you want once we're home." As I spoke, I took a shameless gamble and pressed her against the wall, making a finger heart gesture. Of course, it was all about the camera angle, purely for the live stream effect. The chat went absolutely berserk. Finger hearts. I love this drama. The CEO is blushing. I saw it. She actually blushed. Yvonne was indeed blushing, half from rage, half from embarrassment. In all her life, she had never been this physically close to a man, let alone under the gaze of hundreds of thousands of viewers. Justin, standing by like a stunned idiot, tried to interject, but was met with a heavy stomp on his brand new leather shoes by Leo. "Uncle, the adults are talking. Kids shouldn't butt in." Leo chirped. Justin winced in pain, his eyes bulging, but he couldn't lash out. In that moment, I felt like the greatest man on earth. I forcibly cut the live stream amidst the chaos, and the atmosphere in the hotel room plummeted to sub-zero temperatures. Yvonne broke free from my finger heart pose and regained her CEO posture, her gaze sharp enough to kill. "Arthur, follow me home." And then what? A grand trial or straight to the executioner's block? I leaned against the wall, asking lazily, "You still have the nerve to talk?" Yvonne was fuming, her chest heaving, but she held back for the sake of Justin and Leo's presence. Back at the familiar villa, the silence was terrifying. Justin followed us like a persistent shadow, under the guise of caring for Yvonne. Yvonne sat in the main chair, while Leo and I stood before her like 2 criminals. She pulled a folder from her bag and, thud, slapped it onto the coffee table. A divorce agreement. She looked at me coldly. "I'm giving you one last chance. If you ever dare to cause a scene like today again, sign this immediately and get out of the Lou family." This was her ultimate trump card. The old Arthur would have lost use of his legs the moment he heard the word divorce. Justin's eyes flickered with excitement, as if he could already see me being kicked out onto the streets like a dog. I stepped forward and picked up the agreement, every eye in the room fixed on me. Yvonne expected me to beg. Justin expected me to collapse. Instead, without even glancing at the contents, I brought the paper to my mouth, wiped away the grease left over from my late-night snack, crumpled it into a ball, and tossed it into the trash. Honey, the paper's a bit stiff. Next time, remember to use a softer brand. The room went dead silent. Yvonne's expression shifted from coldness to shock, then to utter disbelief. Justin's jaw nearly hit the floor. Leo saw the opening and immediately rushed in to back me up. Mom, I think getting a divorce is actually for the best. Once you're divorced, Dad can take me to sea candy. She even bought me a huge roasted chicken. Yvonne was so livid she felt dizzy, clutching her forehead. You too. Suddenly, I wiped the smirk off my face. My expression became more serious than ever as I looked her straight in the eye. Yvonne, I know you look down on me. You think I'm just a useless parasite. I paused, leaning in. But I'm telling you now, the old Arthur is dead. Standing before you is the new Hulu Arthur. This line was incredibly cheesy, delusional, and embarrassing. Something I come up with on the fly, but the effect was strangely powerful. Yvonne was so stunned by my sudden transformation that she didn't even know how to respond. I pressed my advantage, laying out my demands. From today onward, we are sleeping in separate rooms. Furthermore, I demand independent parental rights over Leo. Your elite education is not a fit for my son. Yvonne's instinct was to refuse, but as she looked at my unfamiliar, determined face, she fell into a mysterious silence. What on earth happened to this man? Since when did he become so difficult to deal with? And why? Why does he actually look a little bit charming? For the first time, she began to doubt herself. On the first night of sleeping in separate rooms, Yvonne suffered from insomnia. From the room next door, she could vaguely hear the cheerful cheers and bickering of Leo and me as we played video games. She tossed and turned in frustration, her mind a tangled mess of confusion. The next day, when she returned home from work and opened the door, a thick, pungent smell of charcoal smoke hit her instantly, sending her into a coughing fit. The living room was a far cry from its usual pristine state. Right in the center, a small camping tent had been pitched, and in front of it sat a portable barbecue grill. Leo and I were perched on tiny stools, looking like professional street vendors as we grilled lamb skewers, with a few cans of beer chilling nearby. Arthur, what on earth are you doing? The house was filled with smoke, and Yvonne's temper flared up once again. Her blood pressure was practically screaming at her. I looked up, seeing her face practically breathing fire, and calmly held out a freshly grilled skewer. Oh, you're home, honey? Try my secret recipe. I doubled the cumin just for you. Yvonne had been fully prepared to explode, to toss us and our grill right out the door. But the skewer was perfectly charred on the outside and succulent on the inside, and the aroma was irresistible. Her traitorous stomach let out a distinct growl. The sound wasn't loud, but in the sudden silence of the living room, it was painfully obvious. Leo, with his sharp ears, held up a grilled chicken wing and blinked his big eyes. Eat it, Mommy. Once you eat with us, we're on the same team. That way, you'll be too embarrassed to scold us anymore. This twisted logic left Yvonne completely speechless. She hesitated for a moment, but finally took the skewer and sat down on a tiny stool, looking slightly awkward yet strangely intrigued. This was the first time she had ever been with us in such a commoner fashion. As she took a bite, the crispy exterior gave way to tender meat, and the flavors exploded in her mouth. It was unexpectedly delicious. She couldn't help but take another bite. Right then, the doorbell rang. It was Justin again. He had arrived with expensive gifts, looking to get close to Yvonne. But when he saw the bizarre scene of a family camping trip in the middle of the living room, he froze like a statue. Specifically, seeing his high and mighty Ice Queen goddess sitting on a tiny plastic stool in a custom-tailored suit, munching on barbecue, caused his entire worldview to crumble. Seeing Justin, my prankster instincts flared up. I picked up a grilled mushroom and held it to Yvonne's lips. Honey, open up. Yvonne's first instinct was to refuse, but seeing Justin's utterly distorted expression, she suddenly changed her mind. She leaned in slightly and took a bite. Justin felt as if a knife had been plunged into his heart. Leo pointed at him, asking with a face full of innocence, "Mom, why does this guy keep coming to our house? He's so ugly. Is he trying to be a parasite like us too?" Justin nearly coughed up blood. He couldn't stay a second longer and fled in humiliating defeat. Once he was gone, Yvonne looked at me and couldn't help but let out a sudden burst of laughter. Her laugh was like a glacier melting or a mountain of flowers blooming. Seeing that rare smile, I actually dazed out for a second. Yvonne noticed, her cheeks flushing slightly, and she awkwardly turned her face away. The atmosphere in the living room suddenly became subtle. Ever since I took over the parenting, Leo's style had completely transformed. One day, while I was home researching livestream scripts, I got a call from his kindergarten teacher. Her tone was dead serious. "Is this Leo's guardian? Please, you and his mother need to come to the school immediately. Your son is organizing a multi-level marketing MLM scheme in class." MLM? I hung up the phone, completely stunned. Had this kid expanded his business empire all the way to the nursery? I told Yvonne, and her face, which had finally softened over the last 2 days, turned pitch black again. We both rushed to the principal's office, where several other parents were already lodging complaints. The teacher's expression soured further when she saw us. "Mr. Arthur, Ms. Liu, look at this. Look at what your son has done." She pointed to the evidence on the table. Several printed, autographed photos of me, a few candid everyday shots of Yvonne, and a pile of crumpled candy and spare change. It turned out Leo had taken my household bragging to heart. He'd been telling everyone at school that his dad was a viral superstar and his mom was a domineering CEO. He even started selling merch. My autograph photos were 5 cents each, no buyers. But the candid shots of Yvonne, the CEO, were $1 a piece, and the little boys were snatching them up like crazy. He'd even applied the thick-skin tactics I taught him to recruit a group of lackeys to do his bidding and convince several little girls to bring him snacks every day. The mother of a chubby boy pointed a finger at my nose and barked, "It's all your fault. You sit around the house doing nothing all day, teaching children these crooked ways. Like father, like son." I recognized this woman. She was a distant relative of Justin's, someone who usually loved to use her status to bully others. Yvonne felt like she had lost all face, so embarrassed she wanted to find a hole to crawl into. She glared at me with a look that clearly said, "Look at the mess you've made." I, however, didn't panic at all. I walked over to the table, counted the spare change, and looked at Leo with a serious face. "How much did you make in total?" Leo puffed out his chest proudly. $23.50. I nodded approvingly. "Not bad. You got a business mind, truly my son." Then, I turned to the chubby parent and said with a smirk, "Listen, lady, my son earned this through his personal charm and business acumen, fair and square. Unlike some people who have to rely on family connections to act all high and mighty. If no one likes your son, it's because he lacks talent. What are you so jealous of?" The woman's face turned beet red, her words caught in her throat. The other parents, who were about to join in, suddenly shut their mouths. I continued my relentless logic. Children's matters should be settled by children. If he has the ability to make others willingly open their wallets, that's his skill. As parents, instead of teaching your kids to be more competitive, you're here criticizing a 6-year-old? Don't you find that hilarious? This wave of twisted logic left everyone stunned. Yvonne, standing behind me and watching me take on the crowd alone, was silenced. For the first time, she felt that the back of this man standing in front of her was actually quite handsome. The kindergarten storm eventually ended with me buying McDonald's for the whole class as emotional compensation. Though it cost a bit, Leo's status as the king of the kids was officially solidified. My relationship with Yvonne also softened significantly after our joint mission against the outside world. But a new storm arrived fast. Candy arrived with her team and a detailed partnership plan. She wanted to build a family-themed comedy IP, intellectual property, centered around me and Leo. She offered a very attractive price, and looking at the contract, I was tempted. To show her sincerity, Candy personally directed a shoot for me and Leo, teaching us how to pose. She hooked her arm through mine in a familiar gesture, while Leo held a reflector on the side, shouting like a pro, "That's it. Dad, move a little closer." closer to my new mommy. That little brat, just for the Lego set Candy promised him, he was already calling people mommy left and right. Right at that moment, the crisp click-clack of high heels echoed from the foyer. Yvonne was home. She stood at the living room entrance, witnessing our happy family of three scene. The expression on her face froze instantly. Seeing Candy's arm linked with mine and hearing Leo say, "New mommy," sent a surge of extreme rage through her. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in a heartbeat. Candy sensed the shift and awkwardly let go. I thought to myself, I'm dead. Yvonne approached us one step at a time, her presence expanding until she looked like a queen patrolling her territory. She cast a cold, fleeting glance at Candy before fixing her gaze entirely on me. "Arthur, explain yourself." I spread my hands with an innocent look. "It's just work, honey. Making a living to support the family." Yvonne's rage index hit its peak. "Am I not capable of supporting you?" I chuckled softly. "Well, even a parasite needs some capital to stand tall. I can't just be a complete loser relying entirely on my wife's handouts." This statement completely ignited her fuse. Without a word, she stepped forward, grabbed my wrist, and dragged me toward the upstairs bedroom with surprising strength. Candy and her team stood there, stunned. Leo, being the clever brat he is, whipped out his phone and secretly filmed our retreating backs, preparing to send it to the Family Love group chat, the one consisting only of him and Annie Vera. Bam! The door was deadbolted. She shoved me hard against the wall. Then, she flipped the script, pinning me into the corner using the exact same wall slam pose I had used on her before. She leaned in dangerously close, her warm breath fanning across my face, carrying a scent of peril. "Arthur, I'm warning you," she whispered, her voice low and strained through gritted teeth. "From now on, you will only eat from Yvonne's bowl. You aren't allowed to touch a single bite of that trash out there." I looked at her face so close to mine, more vivid and alive in her anger than she ever was in her icy calm, and my heart actually skipped a beat. This woman is actually quite attractive when she's jealous. Meanwhile, Justin's mental state completely collapsed after watching the video Leo sent to the group chat. In the footage, Yvonne looked domineering as she claimed her sovereignty over me, a sight that felt like a knife repeatedly twisting in his lapdog heart. He couldn't understand how he, with his money and decent looks, was still inferior to a useless guy like me. Jealousy distorts people. It makes them lose their minds. Justin shelled out cash to hire 2 bumbling thugs to kidnap Leo and me. A few days later, while I was taking Leo to buy his favorite grilled cold noodles, a beat-up old van suddenly screeched to a halt beside us. The door slid open, and 2 masked men grabbed us without a word, hauling us inside. It happened so fast that Leo's noodles went flying. My grilled noodles," he cried out in heartbreak. Inside the van, one of the kidnappers brandished a knife, gesturing wildly. "Sit still, or I'll gut both of you." I remained calm, and surprisingly, Leo didn't cry either. He just wrinkled his nose in disgust. "Mister, the air conditioning in your van isn't very cold." 1-star review. The kidnapper driving turned back and barked, "Shut up. Gag him." I sighed. "Brothers, kidnapping is a job that requires technical skill. The route you've planned is all wrong. If you turn right at the next intersection, there are surveillance cameras everywhere. If you turn left, there's a sobriety checkpoint where traffic cops are always hanging out. Listen to me. Turn around and take the back alley. It's much safer." The 2 kidnappers looked at each other, clearly rattled by my professional advice. They followed my directions and ended up driving in circles around the city. Finally, the van stopped at an abandoned warehouse. We were shoved out, and the kidnappers pulled out some rope, intending to tie us up. I proactively held out my hands. "Tie them loosely, please. If you tie them too tight, it affects my blood circulation, and I won't be able to count the ransom money properly later if my hands are numb." The 2 kidnappers were completely speechless. They had clearly never encountered a hostage so cooperative. As we waited, Justin's ransom call still hadn't come through, and the warehouse was dark and boring. I made a suggestion. "Since we're just sitting around anyway, why don't we play some Fight the Landlord?" The kidnappers' eyes lit up, and they happily agreed. Just like that, the kidnapping scene underwent a total style change. Leo and I formed one team, while the 2 kidnappers formed the other. Using a piece of chalk to draw a board on the dusty floor, We began an intense card game. Meanwhile, Yvonne received a ransom call from Justin using a voice changer. I have your husband and son. Prepare $10 million. Don't call the police, or you'll be collecting their bodies. Yvonne panicked. On one hand, she had the finance department prepare the cash. On the other, she summoned Logan and the security team to race to my phone's GPS location. She couldn't even stop herself from calling the police. When Yvonne, the police, and the security guards kicked down the warehouse door, everyone was stunned by the sight before them. In the center of the warehouse, Leo and I were cheering. Airplane. Spring. Ha ha ha. Pay up, pay up. The two kidnappers sat dejectedly on the ground, their faces covered in paper slips as penalties, fumbling for cash in their pockets. In front of us sat a decent pile of one winnings. Seeing the police, the kidnappers looked as if a massive burden had been lifted. They raised their hands high. Officers, please, just arrest us. I'm never kidnapping anyone again. These two are absolute scammers. My wages for the day, even the New Year's money my mom gave me, I lost it all. Justin, as the mastermind, was immediately ratted out by his pig teammates and hauled away by the police on the spot. With the danger cleared, Yvonne rushed forward and hugged Leo and me tightly. Her body was trembling slightly, and tears fell uncontrollably. This was the first time I had ever seen her cry. I patted her back, comforting her gently. What are you crying for? Don't be scared. Look, we won money. After the kidnapping incident, Yvonne's attitude toward us flipped 180 degrees. She finally seemed to realize just how important Leo and I were to her. She decided to go into the kitchen herself to cook a love dinner to make up for our ordeal. The result? A total disaster. When she brought out a plate of cola chicken wings that were so burnt you couldn't recognize the ingredients, and a pot of soup emitting a bizarre aroma, Leo and I looked at each other. We saw the same do or die look in each other's eyes. Honey, is this a new dish? Charcoal grilled style. I asked with great difficulty. Leo pinched his nose. Mommy, your love is too heavy. I don't think I can swallow this. Yvonne, who had been full of expectation, saw her gentle expression vanish instantly upon hearing our remarks. Flustered and annoyed, she snapped. Don't say another word. Eat it all. Just as she was about to lose her temper, I sighed and stood up. Under her startled gaze, I scooped her up in a princess carry. She let out a small gasp, instinctively wrapping her arms around my neck. I set her down gently on the sofa and rolled up my sleeves. Sweetheart, you only need to focus on being as beautiful as a flower, I said. Leave a greasy place like the kitchen to me. I'd like to live a few more years just to keep looking at you. This sudden confession made Yvonne's face flush a deep crimson. Leo clapped and cheered. Dad, you're so cool. Then he looked at me expectantly. What about me? What do I do? I gave him a look. You? Just take care of yourself and stop causing trouble. That'll be enough. Leo pouted. I knew it. I'm just a free gift you get when you top up your phone credit. From our family dynamic changed completely. Out in the world, Yvonne remained the cold, ice queen CEO, earning the big bucks to support the family. But at home, she was an occasionally haughty wife who let me hand feed her. I took charge of researching recipes, causing chaos on live streams, and teasing her. Leo was responsible for complaining and acting as the third wheel, though whenever we got too lovey-dovey, he'd wisely retreat to his room to play games. Our home was noisy every day, but it was filled with a laughter we had never known before. Yvonne grew accustomed to the smell of delicious food greeting her at the door. She grew used to letting go of her CEO persona and leaning into my arms, laughing until she was breathless at my jokes. She discovered that this life was far happier than the cold, serious days of her past. One evening, as she leaned against me watching TV, she suddenly asked, Arthur, when exactly did you change? I thought for a moment and smiled. Probably when I decided I didn't want to see you so exhausted and alone anymore. I wanted to share the burden with you. It was a lie, but seeing her eyes shimmer with emotion, I felt it was a lie well worth telling. My live streaming career reached its peak thanks to that bizarre kidnapping case. The entire internet now knew there was a man named Arthur who, along with his 6-year-old son, had tamed a cold female CEO and even scammed kidnappers into a game of cards. My follower count surpassed 10 million overnight. Candy and I made a fortune. To celebrate, I booked out a sky-high revolving restaurant for a 10 million follower gala, live streaming the whole event. I wore a sleek tuxedo, and Leo wore a matching miniature version, acting like a little gentleman as he followed me around to receive congratulations. Just as the live stream reached its climax, the restaurant doors swung open. Yvonne appeared in a dazzling crimson evening gown and high heels, walking toward me under the gaze of everyone present. Tonight, she was breathtaking, like a flickering flame that stole every eye in the room. The livestream chat went wild. OMG, the CEO madam has arrived. The queen has descended. That aura. She is the undisputed queen of the night. It's over, it's over. My ship just became canon. Yvonne walked straight to me. She reached out, straightened my tie, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed me squarely on the lips. The camera flashes strobed incessantly, and the livestream comments crashed entirely. As the kiss ended, she took the microphone, looked into the camera, and at everyone watching, and declared with absolute finality, "This man is mine." That one sentence shattered the fantasies of every female fan in the chat. I'm heartbroken. My new husband has been stolen. I declare war on the CEO for stealing my man. Just kidding. Wishing you both 100 years of happiness. After the celebration ended, we returned home. In the dead of night, once I had confirmed that Yvonne was fast asleep, I reverted to my traditional talent, hiding a secret stash. I crept over to the side of the bed, peeled back the rug, and pried up the loose floorboard, preparing to stuff in the small treasure I had siphoned off today. Suddenly, a whisper echoed from behind me. "Dad, I want to hide some too." Leo had crawled over out of nowhere, clutching a few bills he had swiped from my wallet 3 days ago. Just as the two of us were about to exchange the contraband, click, the bedroom lights flared to life. The two of us froze and turned our heads in unison. Yvonne was leaning against the doorframe in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, watching us with a gentle, knowing smile. "How much have you saved up?" she asked softly. "Is it enough to buy me that limited edition bag next month?" Her voice was sweet, but Leo and I shared a look and reached an immediate, silent consensus. We jumped up, wearing identical, sheepish grins, and shouted in perfect harmony, "Honey, Mommy, this is the surprise we were preparing for you." Yvonne's smile grew even wider as she opened her arms to us. "Really? Then why don't you bring that surprise over here and let me see it?" Under the soft moonlight, the three of us laughed and played together. Perhaps, I thought, this is the simplest yet most authentic joy a man can find. The story ends here. Thank you for listening.